When my son told me not to come for Christmas, I laughed at first. I thought he was joking. But when he said, "Mom, it's better this way," my heart sank. For years, we'd shared every Christmas together, no matter how tough life got. That night, sitting by the tree we decorated early, I looked at the mortgage bill on the table and thought, what's the point of building a home if the family inside is falling apart? So I made a choice. Not out of anger, but clarity. I canceled the payment, and everything changed after that. It started with a simple message from my son, one I never imagined would break me the way it did. "Mom, don't come for Christmas this year." At first, I thought he was kidding. We've always spent Christmas together, even when money was tight, even when life was hard. But this time, his tone was different. Distant, cold, final. I sat there staring at the lights on our tree, the same ornaments we'd hung since he was little, and realized something had changed. Family didn't mean the same thing anymore. At least not to him. That night, as I looked at the stack of bills on the counter, especially the mortgage payment, something in me shifted. What good is paying for a house that no longer feels like a home? So I made a decision. One that wasn't about money, but about self-respect, love, and finally letting go. It was a cold December morning when I saw my phone light up with a message from my son, Ethan. We hadn't spoken much lately. He'd been busy, or so he said, but I still believed we'd share Christmas like always. I opened the message with a smile, expecting him to ask what dessert I'd bring. Instead, the words on the screen felt like a knife through my chest. "Mom, don't come for Christmas this year. It's better this way." I read it over and over, thinking maybe I misunderstood. Maybe he meant he'd be out of town, or maybe it was a prank. But no. When I called him, his tone was serious. He said things were different now, that he needed space. I tried to stay calm, but my hands shook. The silence after he hung up echoed louder than any words could. I sat alone in our living room, staring at the Christmas tree. Every ornament told a story. His first drawing, our family trips, the year he got his first bike. How could all that love fade into distance so easily? My husband, Mark, found me sitting there hours later, still holding the phone. I showed him the message. He didn't say much, just sighed deeply and sat beside me. That night, we didn't eat dinner, we didn't talk. We just sat in that heavy silence, realizing that something between us and our son had broken. And we didn't even know why the next few days were unbearable. Every sound of a Christmas song on the radio made my chest tighten. I tried to focus on simple tasks, cleaning, cooking, pretending to be fine, but everything reminded me of Ethan. I kept asking myself, what did we do wrong? Mark tried to reason it out. Maybe he's just stressed. Maybe he's overwhelmed, but deep down, I knew there was more to it. The last time we'd visited him, I sensed distance. He had a new circle of friends, a girlfriend we barely knew, and a life that didn't include us. Still, I never imagined he'd cut us off for Christmas. I thought about the sacrifices we made for him, working overtime to pay his college tuition, skipping vacations, helping him buy his first car. Every parent does those things with love, not expecting repayment. Just connection. And now the silence was our reward. One night, I pulled out an old photo album. There was a picture of Ethan, age 6, holding a snow globe I'd given him. The joy on his face was pure innocent. I whispered to that photo, "Where did you go, my boy?" My voice cracked, tears streaming down my face. Mark came in quietly. He looked at me, then at the photo album. "We've spent our lives paying for things that don't matter if a family doesn't last," he said softly. Those words stuck with me, heavier than they sounded. For the first time, I realized that maybe this pain wasn't just about our son. It was about us, too. About the life we'd built around responsibilities, payments, and expectations, hoping love would hold it all together. But now it felt like everything, even our home, was built on memories that no longer mattered. It was 3 nights before Christmas when I finally snapped. The mortgage bill sat on the table, same as every month. Normally, I'd pay it without thinking, our ritual of responsibility. But this time, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I looked at that paper and thought, we've worked all our lives to keep this house standing. Yet what good was it now? The laughter, the chaos, the family dinners, all gone. What was left were walls filled with echoes. Mark walked into the kitchen and saw me staring at the bill. "What's wrong?" he asked. I looked up and said, why are we still paying for a home no one wants to come back to? He didn't answer right away. Then he nodded slowly as if he'd been thinking the same thing. That night, we sat down and talked for hours, not about money, but about meaning, about how we'd poured our hearts into holding everything together while watching our family drift apart. We realized the house had become a symbol of effort, of expectation, of things that once mattered. But love? That wasn't here anymore. So we made a decision, not to run away, not to rebel, but to reclaim control. We decided to pause the mortgage payment, to take that money and use it to rediscover ourselves, to travel, to breathe, to stop living for others' approval. It felt rebellious, maybe even wrong. But for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. As I clicked cancel payment, my hands trembled, but my heart felt lighter. It wasn't about punishing anyone. It was about remembering that our worth wasn't tied to a house, or even our son's acceptance. It was about us. The following week felt strangely peaceful. For the first time in decades, Christmas morning arrived without chaos. No rushing, no expectations, no phone calls. Mark and I sat together with hot chocolate, listening to the quiet hum of the heater instead of carols. At first, the silence felt heavy, but then it became comforting. We spent the day watching old movies, laughing at moments we hadn't remembered in years. There was no tree full of gifts, no family dinner, no pretense, just us being present. Still, there was a part of me that ached. I missed Ethan terribly. I checked my phone more times than I'd like to admit, hoping for a message that never came. But as the day went on, I realized something. I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt healed. Sometimes love means letting go. We'd done everything we could as parents, and now it was time for him to live his choices, just as we were learning to live ours. A week later, Ethan finally called. His voice was hesitant. "Mom, I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. I didn't cry this time. I simply told him, "We're okay. You do what makes you happy." There was a pause, then a soft, "I miss you." That was enough. We didn't need apologies, just honesty. By then, I understood something profound. You can't force family, but you can always choose peace. We hadn't lost our son. We'd just found ourselves again in the process. Months have passed since that Christmas, and life looks different now. The mortgage company eventually called, and we explained that we were taking a pause. We later decided to sell the house altogether. It wasn't a loss. It was liberation. We bought a smaller cottage near the lake, surrounded by quiet mornings and bird song instead of city noise. It's peaceful here. Every corner feels like a fresh start, not a reminder of what we lost. Sometimes I still think about that Christmas, the pain, the confusion, the courage it took to let go. But I realize now that love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means stepping back, giving space, and trusting that bonds built on truth will always find their way home. Ethan visits us now, not out of obligation, but because he wants to. Our conversations are real again. No guilt, no expectations, just love. The mortgage we canceled wasn't just a payment. It was a symbol of everything we were holding on to out of fear. Fear of change, fear of being forgotten. Once we let that go, we found something priceless. Peace, freedom, and a new kind of family connection. If I've learned anything, it's this. Homes can be rebuilt, money can be earned, but love only survives when it's chosen freely. And this Christmas, when Ethan hugged me and whispered, "Thanks for understanding," I finally felt at home again. Not in a house, but in my heart.